Of course, we start just when the song ends. That's always great.
That's it.
Who's producing this thing anyway?
You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jourdan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before it, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Boom! That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that. Boom! That's exactly it. This AI might be an air raid of indoctrination. I mean, it's crazy. It's just going. I guess at 12 o'clock they do an air raid siren. It's
AIR. Yeah, air raid.
That's right.
Yes.
We got the old air raid. I did that once in my old school, my high school. I guess it was built, I don't know, in the 60s.
You pulled a fire alarm in your high school?
No, on the roof. If you go on the roof, they had this like, it was like a, it was a human thing. It was had a big handle, and you go, wah, and you do it like that, and had a and it was so loud. And so we're up there.
Were you born in the 1910s? Like what?
No, my school was built back then, and so anyway, so on top it had it there, and so you do it, and we're like idiots because we're so excited to do it, but we're in essence telling the police, "Here we are." And so then the cops came. We're on the roof like a bunch of idiots going like this, screaming like we wanted to be louder than the siren. Oh my gosh, it was the dumbest thing to have the police call your parents about.
Yeah, you didn't really think past the actual fun of turning the crank, right? It's like you didn't know. You just knew that doing that would be fun. It would make a loud noise. You weren't thinking about what the
other thing we did. I hadn't thought about this in a million years. We had in the center of town, Radburn. I was in Fairlawn, but Radburn was like the center of town, and it had all the stores there.
Radburn?
Yeah,
that sounds like a great punk rock band's
name.
Yeah,
I know.
Radburn.
Yeah,
I love that.
And that's my friends with my punk rock band Napalm Parade. They lived there too. So
did you guys go live in Radburn?
Well,
that was awesome.
It was too fancy for us.
Oh, okay. All right.
So in the middle of the town, they had one of those like clock towers, and it had a clock on it. And so we climbed in the middle of the night, and we're like spinning around the clock. So it was going like this. Once again, the police they were driving past, and they saw the clock going like this. What the heck's going on? What a bunch of idiots.
So for the first time in I don't know how long, we finally have somebody that's joining early telling us to shut up and get started. Chris Donahoe, thank you for that because
there you go.
Sometimes we just need a pattern interrupt from our guests. So if you are watching live on any of the tubes, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, we can't say Twitter anymore. So
X,
live on X,
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm comfortable even saying that sentence, but there it is.
Live on X.
Chris Donahoe, thank you for joining us on LinkedIn. We've got a great guest coming. But before that happens, I'm gonna roll it over to Dan because boy, I tell you what. Like when you guys did cold calls, did you have those phones that you had to crank to in order to make a cold call? Was that that
was when cold calls were real. I mean, it was like you were really talking to everything was so manual that it prepared you for life. The challenge is now that everything is so automated that people don't have the basics and the fundamentals. But let me tell you something right now. And I mean this. Most of the time I'm lying, but this time I mean it. If there's a way, Chris Donahoe, for you to combine the old-time fundamentals along with the new AI, the artificial intelligence that can get you to the next level, you're literally unstoppable.
Mm.
But the problem is most people won't figure out how to utilize it to their benefit, which is why we, after searching the planet for the premier expert in AI technology and the usage of it to make your sales prosper beyond your humanistic capabilities to imagine.
Wow.
I'm just trying to get more syllables into this to a
let's make up
small word.
words. It's cool.
Yeah, there we go. We found him, and he's going to come on the show today. So without any further ado, please let me introduce my friend, Brian Jean-Luc Picard.
Hey,
In the house.
How do I get that in loop?
Yeah.
When I walk in a room.
That costs money right there to get that.
I put it on my phone and carry the speaker and play that as I walk into rooms.
Well, there's an app where you can. Dan, you should do this. This is a great idea, Brian.
What?
It's called Cameo, where you basically go on and you could hire somebody to do phone greetings or to do, and it's usually for celebrities like Dan.
Yeah.
And you can charge whatever you want. It's kind of like Fiverr for, meets OnlyFans. It's
That's exactly. So speaking of OnlyFans, Brian, what's your channel? I'm just kidding. All right. So we got,
I'm on the wrong podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't Google OnlyFans.
Please,
Google
no.
Brian Picard. So actually, I was not. Of course, I was making a dramatical entrance for you, but I wasn't. It wasn't, untrue what I was saying. There's nobody I've met so far that is as accomplished as you are utilizing AI technology and benefiting. And I know you're coaching several businesses and teams and things like that with it. If you could share, before we get into your personal stuff, and we will, if you could share some successes that you've had or with salespeople on them and how they've used AI to further their career. And if you can come up with some numbers, that would be great too.
So I think the best way to think about AI when we talk about salespeople, for me, is it's very personal. And so everybody's going to use it different ways to help augment areas that they need improvements. And so if we talk about good examples, I have everything from new sales reps in the corporate environment using AI to better understand the product. And there's a couple of ways to do that by turning any of the product information into quizzes, flashcards, teaching the AI to role play with you on that information. And so from something as simple as helping a sales rep learn how to prepare or utilize that information, debate that information with the AI, go back and forth with the AI around questions and comments, as if they really had a human or a coach there to work with, to me is invaluable. And so that allows the rep to work very quickly at their own pace, doing the things that they need so that they can go be ready for that next call, that next meeting, what have you. All the ways using big time tools like XIQ. You and I both have talked about XIQ, where we teach sales reps how to use what they present, which they have amazing AI delivered SWOT analysis, and how to go use that to compare to your products and offerings, that now you save yourself hours and hours of time of preparing sales strategies by leveraging what an AI company already puts out there and the ability of AI to go compare that very quickly to documents that you have existing around your products and services. Now, you still need the human touch, right, Dan? We're old salespeople that have been around a long time. I bring a lot to the table. AI is not going to write a better strategy than I'm going to, but it's going to get it to a better place that I can go do my job much more effectively and efficiently. Some of the interesting data when we talk about strategies, I work for a large corporation as my day job, training salespeople how to use different tools, and AI being one of them. What we found was individuals who were building their strategies with their teams were getting through 1 to 3 accounts in an hour and a half time frame.
Wow.
To now they're getting through 10 to 12 accounts in that same time frame, and much deeper, richer strategies are being built because they're not spending hours trying to figure out this SWOT analysis here matches with this service over here. They don't have to. AI does all that stuff for you way better than you can, and very effectively and efficiently. And then you go apply your experience to it.
So you use it to figure out what is going to work with that potential prospect.
Correct.
Right. And so you use the AI to kind of scrape the internet and say, hey, this person will respond this way to this I don't know, email or what have you.
Well, here's a good example, Dan. Because I was prepping to meet with you, I went to LinkedIn and I pulled up your profile and I copied everything on that page and I pasted it into ChatGPT and I asked it a series of questions about your profile. And it gave me a summary and it gave me some bulleted points, some high-level bullet points on how to interact with you. And so it just helped me, instead of reading your profile and going to your website and going to 46 different places to try and understand how's the best way to work with you. I just developed 3, 4, 5, 6 prompts that did it for me. It created me a summary of your profile. I did the same thing on your website and I got an idea of what courses you offer. And so for me, it's an efficiency tool. AI being artificial intelligence, I think, is what scares people. When you think of AI as augmenting human intelligence, it's much more palatable for the sales guy because you can't get rid of what I do. You have to enhance or augment what I do. And that's what AI can do for you.
Perfect. Okay. So for someone to take away, first thing to do is, if you're going to talk to somebody on a sales call, not on a cold call, but on a sales call, if you want to know them, pull up their profile, throw it into ChatGPT. And what are the prompts that you say, to get that information?
So that kind of goes into where my specialty lies. And that's, I teach people how to build prompts using a 6 modular approach. It's called the powered prompt method, POWERD. And so when you understand that methodology, you can develop prompts very quickly. I'm anti prompt packs. I think what I found early on.
And, explain for the non-initiated. Explain what a prompt pack is.
Okay, so prompt being how we interact with most of these large language models like ChatGPT or Bard or whichever flavor you're using. When you type into the chat box and ask the AI a question, we call that a prompt. And so when you learn how to build those prompts using this modular approach, you can use all 6 components. You can use 2 or 3. But what we found is we were able to get far greater responses and, more importantly, consistent responses. Let me give you an analogy. How good are you with Google searches, Dan?
I am horrific.
Chris, what about you? You're the technical one. Do you get what you want out of Google, do you think, most of the time?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody has their act together with their own search engine optimization, I think it's not, it's not too hard to find what I need to get. I mean, every one of my shows, I'm constantly looking for stuff as a producer. So I'm Googling it and I'm finding things. And, but in terms of, the generative stuff, like there's nothing like going down a rabbit hole and getting exactly what you want, as opposed to like needling through 8 pages that Google gives you,
right?
And getting something that is not only just more dense with information on whatever you're looking for, but more specific to what you need.
And you get rid of all the sponsored ads and stuff, people that paid to be at the top. But here's where I was going with this. A lot of people don't realize with Google, and Google's been out, 20 some odd years, there are better methods for searching within Google, just like there's better methods for prompting within ChatGPT and others. So, and what I mean by that is in Google, you may or may not know this, if you type in a phrase, right, and all you do is search, it's going to look for each one of those words individually. When you put quotations around them in the Google search, it looks for that specific phrase. Other things people don't know, you could type in a site like Wikipedia in colon, and then put in a specific word or phrase, and it'll get a better search just on Wikipedia. It'll go to that site. I say all that because I don't want you to think ChatGPT or Bard or any of these are tools that you have to go learn this crazy language like code. But there are things that once you understand, just like with Google searching, you'll get far better, more consistent results. And so the tool works great by itself, just like Google does. If you go type in some words, verbs, and nouns, you'll get a response. But if you learn those few little things, those little secrets, you'll be surprised at what you get out of Google, ergo what you get out of ChatGPT.
Yeah. So what I have done occasionally, and I should do it more because I know they work on a Boolean search type of thing. And I've used it for LinkedIn and I've used it for Google, but I've gone to ChatGPT and I said, create a Boolean search looking for with these words. And it gives me the strand, because I always get confused. Is it quotation? Is it capital? Do you put a comma or a colon? And, so there's different ways. But I'll ask for the Boolean, Boolean, what do I call it? Algorithm, I don't know, whatever. Create a Boolean sentence looking for these items, and it gets you exactly to the right thing.
Yeah. I'm just impressed that you used the word Boolean like 16 times just now.
I know.
Yeah, it was like, I
apologize. Explain what a Boolean thing is. Do you know what it is, Brian Picard, Jean-Luc?
I would not want to be the one giving that definition.
Okay,
you said it 16 times. I hope you know what it means.
Well, I mean, it's probably a guy's name, but it's a method of and an order of which you put words together to narrow down and filter down into what you want.
So I would have said something similar. So at least I was in the same page. So good.
Yes.
I thought you had a
more. Oh, so you didn't know what it was either. Okay, look at that. You see,
you Dewey Decimal System 16 times now too.
My mother was a grade school librarian, and we were brought up on the Dewey Decimal System.
Okay.
I knew exactly where history was and literature was. I had the whole thing.
Dan, here's going to be your first task for ChatGPT around Google. So here's a good use case. You're going to use what I call as a prompt trigger, is act as, right? Now I'm telling the AI to act as a certain thing. And when I do that, I'm going to tell it to act as a Google search expert, right?
Christone, can we pull it up? Can you pull up? Yeah, so let's see what he can do there. And so maybe we could play around with it. Yeah, so prompts are good. Now, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it? To learn these?
I would go to brianpicard.com. I see on the live page here, you have my business website, thinkunlimited.ai. That site is it's under construction, right? We're getting prepared to launch a bunch of new courses around AI, but I also do consulting, coaching. I have a workshop that I can come and do and help you understand what it is you're trying to accomplish with AI. So any of those things you can find at brianpicard.com and soon thinkunlimited.ai.
That's good. So with a name like that, were you a Star Trek type of dude?
Of course. And I grew up with the best Star Trek, the Next Generation.
I think so too. I love that one. My sister and I used to watch it. That was a big deal.
All right, here we are. Act as.
All right. So act as would be what we call a prompt trigger. So this is indicating to the AI, I'm going to give you something here to act as. And so I'm going to say, let's say Google search expert. So that is what we refer to as a persona. That's the P of powered. And the persona, what it does is if I were to give you a pile of puzzle pieces and told you 1,000-piece puzzle and said, hey, go find me a corner piece, it would take you quite a bit of time to do that. But if I had separated those puzzle pieces into piles of edges and blue flowers for that part and red barn pieces, and I say, go find me a corner piece, you now have a specific pile to go look in, right? That makes it much faster, much more efficient, and much more consistent. The persona does that same thing. It's now telling the AI to think like a Google search expert, not anything else. So it goes to any of its information it's been trained on around Google searching. And then the next prompt trigger we're going to use is provide me. And so now we're going to set it up for a very basic output. And I think in this
same
case,
prompt, or am I entering and then entering?
Yep, same prompt, right? We're just going to complete a sentence together. So act as a Google search expert and provide me a list. Right? A lot of people here want to put a bunch of specifics around the list. And that's where the AI starts to get confused. So we're just telling it a list. So now the AI knows I'm thinking about Google searching and I'm going to create a list. So now we're giving it context to go get better at recognizing patterns. And so the next one is just put for. And this is where we give it an audience, the who, and just put non-technical people. We're not getting super fancy here, but I'm just going to pretend like this is someone that doesn't have a lot of experience with Google or not very technical. And that's going to now tell, here's the analogy I use for the audience quite a bit because it makes sense. If we were writing a prompt to create ad copy for the new iPhone, and I told it, 4 senior citizens versus 4 teenagers, I get completely different call to actions. I get completely different ROIs. I get different images. And so the AI now knows when I say a non-technical person to not use fancy jargon around explaining how to search within Google.
Almost feels like the most important part of the prompt, right? You know, like who's it for?
For me, it is. Yeah, it narrows down. It's a magnifying glass for the AI, right? It starts to narrow its focus in on these type of people or who this is for. And I'm this kind of person. So now you can see the context allows the patterning to get even better. This is what I call POW, P-O-W, persona, output, who. And this is what I call your everyday prompt, right? It's just as simple. You can throw it out there and use it. If we get a little more exciting, we get into what we call the emotion or the tone. And this is, you're going to put keep it. That's my prompt trigger. Keep it factual over creative. Now I can get super technical here. This is tapping into what they call
over creative. Got it.
Correct. And what I'm doing here is I'm inadvertently tapping into the backend parameters of ChatGPT. I won't get super techie here, but they have a parameter that goes from 1, which is its most creative, to 0.1, which is super, super tight. It needs lots and lots of connective tissue between the patterns to be used in the output. Whereas when it's on a 1, it doesn't need that. If it's close, it's going to throw it in there. And so that's why you start to get what we call hallucinations or errors, is because there wasn't enough context to get those patterns tightened up to give you a consistent output. So in this place, we're just going to say, I want factual, since we're trying to learn a skill around a technical item like Google searching. So keep it technical or accurate over creative.
Okay.
And then put the specifics are. That's my prompt trigger for the details.
Wow, we need to do a masterclass together with this. Chris Stone, when he's done with this, if you could cut and paste that and put that on so somebody watching this can grab it too when he's done.
I'll give you an easier way to go do this. I've built an interactive form. If you go to Powered Prompt Template, POWERD, no E in there, prompttemplate.com. It's what we've just walked through in an interactive form where you can pick your prompt triggers. It gives some explanations. It's my training wheels for learning how to prompt is what I use it as. So now let's get the specifics. So specifics are put a list of 10 advanced search features, including
list of advanced search features. Is that?
Mm-hmm. Including 2 use cases per feature. So now you can see I gave it specifics, and I didn't put that right next to the list up front because that list, that output, was just giving it a framework.
Right.
And so now that I've established that, it can go in under a list and create this layout of giving me 10 items, and then underneath that 2 specific use cases. Let's hit the giddy up button and see what ChatGPT does.
Let me just make sure I've got this correct. So act as, and this will be so everyone's got it correct that's watching along here. Act as a Google search expert. Provide me a list for non-technical people. Keep it factual over creative. The specifics are our list of advanced search features, including 2 use cases per feature.
Let's put 10. A list of 10.
Yeah, so it doesn't go crazy.
Yeah, because it
list
could
of
go
10
on for
use
hours.
cases per feature.
I'm sorry. A list of 10.
List of 10 advanced search features.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Right. The features. I'm old and blind, so I can't read that. I was having to go.
And we're hitting giddy up. Here we go. Certainly. Here we go.
And now also keep in mind as this populates, it is AI. It's not logic-based, it's pattern-based. And so it's researching all the information it's been trained on, and it's looking for patterns based off of the context that we provided. The button you see down there right above the chat box says regenerate. Don't be afraid to use that. That's not a failure that your prompt wasn't good. I typically regenerate twice on stuff like this. And I compare the 3 outputs, and I either use the one that I like, or I tell it to combine all 3 and take the best from each one and give me an output. So you can use this if you don't get exactly what you want. Because remember, we're talking pattern recognition and context.
Wow.
By regenerating, I give it a second pass, right? So you get a big benefit of regenerating on material like this. Think of if you were using this, Dan, to create call scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Write a call script on a new service that I'm offering. I may want to regenerate it 3, 4, 5 times to allow it to give me the best options. And I go copy paste and build my own call script.
Look at that. And that was built. So the most important part is the prompt.
And here's why I say that.
I'm
glad you said it. Go back up, Chris, because now let's say this didn't give us what we wanted. We can go back up and we now have a map. Well, maybe Google search expert was the wrong persona. Maybe I should copy and paste and try technical writer, or maybe I should try search engine optimizer. You can change out each one of those components and see if you get better results. So I use one all the time. I say, act as a prompt engineer and give me a list of personas to use when creating sales activities or sales scripts or call scripts. And it'll give me
like, let's say you want to do LinkedIn connections for engineers. I guess you can do, because will it go into their personality or the personality of an engineer?
Yes. So you could say act as a sales engineer, or you could provide the sales engineer as your audience, right? Either one. Right. Who's writing it? Who's receiving it?
Look at that. And you could, and I guess you could use this obviously to write a blog. So there's no excuse at this point not to have a blog or not to write an article or,
It's funny you say that. One of my cornerstone products is I've built a prompt that I call my ghostwriter prompt. And so if I wanted to write Dan Jourdan an email, I don't write an email and then have ChatGPT mess around with it. The prompt that I've built, all I do is I go into ChatGPT, I go into custom instructions where I've saved my prompt.
Wait, show me where you could save your prompt.
Oh, go back over, Chris, to ChatGPT. And under my name, I can't see it, but where your name is on the left-hand side, at the very bottom, below all your saved chats.
Yep.
If you click on that, you'll get a little window that pops up next to it. And one of those items should say custom instructions.
Oh, Montekia.
So click on custom instructions, hit OK. And so you can build prompts and save them in here. And so I call these, like for my blog or for my ghostwriter prompt, it lives here. And I come in the morning and I turn it on and I hit save. And I do two things. I give it what I want. In this case, it's a blog. I could say email. I give a comma. I give it the topic. I give it a comma. And I give it any content I want it to reference. So let's say I was referencing an article on cybersecurity I read, and I wanted to give a blog on my 2 cents. Or let's go different. I want to write an email to some of my potential customers referencing this blog that I read about cybersecurity. So I would click this, build it out, and then, or just hit save and then open new chat. And I would pipe in email, comma, cybersecurity, comma, and I'd paste in that blog that I read. And what it's going to do now is ask me a series of questions as if it were interviewing me. Right. So it would go.
Now we're going. Can we do a live thing again, Chris Stone? I'm sorry to make you do all this work.
This one is super advanced, and I wouldn't want to necessarily.
Okay. All right.
It's a pretty in-depth one.
All right. So for someone to do I think the takeaway from this is that there are ways for you to save these prompts. So if you get a good one, download. You don't have to keep on reinventing the wheel every day.
No.
And so to write a blog or article or something that you want out, you can just grab that thing, put in some specifics about that particular article, let it do its thing, answer some other specific questions. See you later, potato. In 5 minutes, you got it.
Well, here's what's nice, Dan, because we got a lot of feedback in the corporate sales world when we started social selling and talking about you should have a blog on LinkedIn, you should be reaching customers in other ways. And we were using AI, and people would write a blog or an email, and then they'd put it into ChatGPT and tell it to turn that into a blog. And what people felt like it wasn't keeping their tone and tenor of their message. When we use it as a ghostwriter, and it goes through this interview process, and I'll tell a story here. This is my personal story that I think it'll tie in nicely. So I started to play with AI a little over a year ago. I'm a curious soul, right? It's what I do for a living. Is I'm an enablement lead for sales, and so I'm always into new tools.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a daughter who at the time was a year into dealing with a late onset Tourette's. She is now a junior in college. This was her senior year in high school. My honor student, straight A's, never had an issue. Her last semester of high school, and she's diagnosed with Tourette's, and subsequently can't read more than 3, 4, 5 sentences at a time without her brain just setting on fire, right? Has to go back and reread. So the 4 parents spent hours and hours trying to help her and figure things out. Well, she came to me February or so of this year and said, Dad, I'm really struggling with some of these more advanced classes. Can you help me? And I just played around with AI enough. I had my first 2 prompt engineer certifications. And I'm like, yep, I think there's something we can do. And so my first pass at building prompts was developing content in a way that she could consume it. And one of those ways was taking these massive PDFs that she had for her classes and converting them into executive summaries, converting them into flashcards, having the AI quiz you over that content with 10 or 15 or 20 multiple choice questions. And so it allowed her a freedom to go start understanding there were ways quickly to go consume information that was best for her. And that's where my journey with like, dude, this is too cool. I can use this for salespeople. And so that set this world on fire. Why I say that is interesting is because I think it tells you how good AI has gotten. When I started to write my blog about my journey with AI, and I told this story because they asked me the very first question, how did you get into AI? And I started this. After I typed in this 30-second spiel, its response to me was, I am sorry to hear about your daughter's Tourette's.
Holy moly.
But what a wonderful way to make lemonade out of lemons. Can you tell me? And then when they had to ask me questions on the further. And so it goes into this process of reading your response or consuming it, whatever AI is doing, right? And then acknowledging it and giving you a new question instead of giving you a series of 10 questions up front. And so it becomes this interactive process. I've got mine set to 7 questions. I find that to be just about right to write a 600 to 800 word blog typically. And then when we've done the 7 questions, it'll tell me I've got enough information. Are you ready to go? And I'm like, giddy up. And it'll produce that blog or that email or that LinkedIn post or whatever it is I want by it interviewing me and then producing the output.
I love how you don't use the word enter. You instead use giddy up. It's like we're interviewing Kramer from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
It's the Kramer of AI. Giddy up.
That's
I'll take it.
That's very cool. All right, look who's here.
Greetings
Go ahead
from, greetings from Anthem. It's 10. Well, thank you for that. We could have asked ChatGPT what time it was, but instead we have a human telling
my
us.
lovely bride is bringing me a salad, so it must be lunchtime. That's it. Crazy,
Chris. How do we don't get delivery service, Chris?
You know what? That's just because I'm a terrible producer. I only take care of the host.
Yeah,
you know, when salad delivery is only good for.
Yeah, I know.
What part of the world are you in, Brian? Like, what part of the planet are you?
I'm in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Oh, wow! That was not expected. I don't know. I don't know why I was thinking like West Coast, you know.
Oh, were you?
No, you strike me as a, you know.
I live on a 15-acre ranch outside of town with a beautiful wife and 3 kids, and I have this amazing life. I sit on my porch and work, and I have a 2-acre pond I look at from my porch, and
oh, that's beautiful.
It's kind of hard to be too upset about life when you wake up every morning to a beautiful setting and a great job, and I get to talk to wonderful people about AI.
Yeah,
I have this theory that we're at the very tip of this iceberg, right? And so I'm on this journey to help people understand that it really is approachable. Like I'm not that smart of a dude. I'm a sales guy. I've been a sales guy my entire career. I'm good at training people. I'm good at connecting people. I'm a consultant by trade. But AI isn't code. AI isn't having to learn another language. The way you saw demonstrated with Chris was the first time Chris has ever done this. And once you understand these basics of prompt triggers and these components, you can start to build masterful prompts. And so I have a methodology or an approach that I'm a big believer as a sales enablement lead. My job is to teach you the capability of tools, not prescribe to you how to use tools. And so if I can teach you the capabilities of AI and then push you off with something like the powered prompt method, I see that salespeople come back to me with phenomenal ideas because it's such a personal tool that you may use it for writing emails, but I love writing emails, so I'm not using AI for emails. And you use it for developing strategies, or you don't do well with call to actions, or you don't get good click-throughs on emails, so you're going to try to write subject lines. This isn't a tool that solves every problem. It's a tool that'll help you get past your problem and onto that next phase. You may find another problem immediately. I will tell you that one of the reasons the ghost prompt made sense to me is, as you can tell, I'm a big flowery storytelling kind of guy that doesn't translate well into the written word a lot of times. And so I found myself trying to start blogs where I would spend hours editing and rearranging and second guessing. And oh my goodness, this is like, oh. And so AI took that from me. I still got my tone and tenor, my thoughts, my approaches, but it edited it and it went and rearranged it. And then I go spend another 15 or 20%, 5 minutes probably, adding Brian's flair to it to really make it feel more human.
So where do you put
getting to 80%?
Where do you put you said it knows your tone and tenor. Where do you download like your documents so it can read those, so it keeps it, so you don't have to keep doing it every time? Like is there a, like you said today, you when you looked at me, you took my LinkedIn profile and you put it somewhere in there. Maybe can you
I did it in ChatGPT.
In ChatGPT. Chris Stone, can you show us how to do that?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, while you pull that up, if you wanted to, I can show you. Basically, go to like the LinkedIn profile of mine would be fine.
Okay.
And literally, you click in the middle of the screen, hit Control A. Maybe.
Okay.
Did it select everything? I can't.
No.
Did you click first in the middle?
Command A, maybe there. Command A. Yeah.
Oh, you're on a Mac. Sorry,
yep.
my problem.
You're one of those Mac type people.
And then hit Command C.
Copy. Yep. All right. Get a new chat going here on.
Go back to ChatGPT. We'll write a real quick prompt. Let's say act as.
We need to remember that.
DISC.
Act as disc.
A DISC. Yep. Personality expert.
Montekia. This is great. Well, so you could say act as a virtual assistant.
Thank you.
Provide me.
Provide me an executive summary. For a salesperson, keep it factual and detailed.
Keep it factual and detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The specifics are 300-word summary. Let's see. Giving 3 suggestions on call to actions for a meeting, and 1 email subject line.
I'm sorry. Give 3 suggestions for a call to action meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
1 email subject line. Now, this is where we deviate a little bit. To say utilizing the content I provide after the colon. Just put the word colon.
Okay.
Period, space, and then put content colon.
You actually write content colon.
Yep.
You don't
content colon, right? I'm tapping into pattern recognition. I told it I was going to give it something after colon, and now just paste in that LinkedIn profile and giddy up.
Giddy up.
I'm going to have you guys saying that all day now.
Are you kidding me?
Scroll down to their output and let's see what they say. Brian Picard
is a seasoned professional with over 12 years experience in sales operations, having served in diverse roles. His journey spans from enablement and engagement for an organization of 500 plus reps to driving strategic conversations and working hand in hand with the Global Business Intelligence Division. Brian's expertise extends to generative AI, Microsoft Power BI, training, delivery, facilitation, and cross-functional team leadership. Outside of Dell, Brian is the owner of ThinkUnlimited.ai, a venture dedicated to educating small business owners on monetizing their. Well, I could read and go on.
Yeah,
This is
look
like,
at
There's
that.
my
three
call to
suggestions.
actions.
Okay, so here are
Let me
the
see those
suggestions. Exploring AI in sales. Discuss the transformative power of AI in sales and the strategies behind strategies Brian has encountered, including the benefits of tools like XIQ. Prompt engineering deep dive. Delve into the modular approach to AI prompting, understanding its advantages and potential applications. And third, monetizing AI for small businesses. Brainstorm potential opportunities for small business owners to leverage AI tools for growth based on Brian's experiences with ThinkUnlimited.ai. And here's an email subject line: Unlocking Sales Potential, dive into generative AI with Brian Picard.
Man, oh man.
So
I mean,
now
that's
go
a
one step
bio.
further.
That's, I mean, you could keep going.
You could go using the same content, provide me a list of words that will resonate with Brian Picard. So now this is what I say when, like, maybe you're not comfortable having AI write you the email, but if I could get AI to tell me what words are going to resonate with the person I'm going to meet with, I can incorporate those into the email that I write.
Should we limit the number of words?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we'll get specific. Give me 10 words.
Okay. And should we say act as anything, or
we don't need to? We're kind of in that phase now where we're getting more conversational, but we'll still use those same components, right?
Okay, so this is the now I'm gonna make you guys go to work because I feel like I'm kind of the AI monkey here. So Brian, before I hit giddy up, what are some words that resonate with you? Let's see.
So, like, I'm a big communication, connection, relationships. Anything in that realm, that is what I'm all about.
Engage.
And engage. Make it so, number one.
Here we go. Sales operations, generative AI, prompt engineering, Think Unlimited, enablement, business
monetizing.
Intelligence. Apparently you think in hashtags. AI in business, hashtag AI in business.
There you go.
Microsoft Power BI, monetizing, and XIQ.
You know that, but hashtag things too. List the appropriate hashtags to get them.
I use it all the time for YouTube video tags. Like a lot of times,
act as an SEO expert.
Yes,
and convert this content into SEO powered an output or list or whatever. All right, so that's where we start thinking about these different modules. When you think of a persona, what are they? LinkedIn coach, SEO expert. Facebook ad copy would be an output type, right? And when I say Facebook ad copy to an output in AI, I get emojis, I get more hypered language. And so when you start playing with those different components, Chris, if you want, whether you want to show it or not, go to powered, POWERD, prompt template.com. It'll help you.
I think I have that already.
Oh, perfect.
I want it. Yeah. Okay, so how do people get that?
Just go to that website. It is free. It is so here's a funny story, Dan and Chris.
Do I have to download anything to get it?
Nope, that's just a website.
Well, why not? You see, that's what you need to do, and that's how you build your list. I mean, I would absolutely get this thing.
That's being built into the ThinkUnlimited.ai website. So that is coming.
Okay.
So
it'll be a little more advanced.
PoweredPromptTemplate.com.
Correct.
For those that are listening, and there is your banner up on the screen. We do have our friend Jean-Christophe Laurent.
He goes by JC.
JC, yes, yeah. Former friend of the show, guest of the show. Excellent.
Yes.
So this will give you
here. Yeah. What do we do here once we hit the site?
Just click. That's just your instructions. So click somewhere on the screen to get rid of that. So now you can see, go to the very top left green box, and it's kind of faint there, but you can see it. Click on that and just pick act as, right? And then you would type in your persona.
That.
And you can see there to your left, you have a description of personas. And you can see there to your right, you have some examples of personas and some pro tips. And that does that for each one of those sections. Now, you don't always have to use all 6, right? You can use 3 or 4. You can really manipulate this, but you'll also find that you'll start using things like personas and audience, or the who, as part of your normal communication with AI. And so this is what I call my training wheels. Here's my fun story for you on this. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm not super smart. I don't code. I never have. Languages are weird to me. My brain doesn't pick them up well. I built this using ChatGPT and the powered method. I built a straw man in an Excel file, and I asked ChatGPT how to convert that into HTML code. And so I went line by line in describing my Excel spreadsheet, and it built the HTML code, which is what this turned into be. So it was plugged it into Bubble.io, and I got this interactive app using ChatGPT to produce the code because I don't know how. And so this will be, I've got an actual developer now taking this and building this into my website, where you won't have to use copy and paste. It'll actually just go directly into ChatGPT from here. So that's coming. That'll be up soon. But
how this is excellent, and it's really directing my brain to think in a different way. This is great. And with that, how's your daughter doing, by the way, in school?
She's killing it. AB student, she's in the marching band.
Yeah.
She's at University of Arkansas, so she's a Razorback. But she is a double major, food science and hotel restaurant management, and she will graduate in about a year, almost a year from now. So,
food science. Is it cold where you are right now? I'm having
it is.
Yeah, what's
34 degrees.
Oh, that's good living. Yeah. So for lunch, I'm gonna have obviously this salad and broccoli and cheese soup. I'm looking forward. It's like it's reached soup weather. It's very good to have soup.
I made a big batch of chili this weekend, so
did you?
I'm ready for it.
Are you? Do you put beans in your chili?
I do it either way. I'm agnostic.
Oh, you're agnostic with your chili. Look at that. So, what about your other 2 kids? So there's the daughter.
I have a 26-year-old son who recently got married. He's a mechanic by trade. Beautiful wife who is a what do they call that? A medical investigator. Really cool job. She plays with dead people. She goes and figure out why they're dead.
Oh my God! Like
great conversations.
Like Quincy, like one of those forensic people.
Yes, think of it like an ME, like a medical examiner, but one pay grade lower kind of thing. So
very cool. So that's a 26-year-old boy, and then what? Yeah, you said you had 3.
My baby is a senior in high school, and she is heading off to be working in the stagecraft business after this. She is kind of a block off my old shoulder. I've been in the arts my entire life, from dance and music, and so she runs lights and sound and builds stagecraft stuff. So a pretty wide mix. I'm a big believer in helping kids find their passions, because passions are what will make you a living. They rarely make you jobs. And so like all my kids are entrepreneurs. I bought my first business at 18. I've been buying and selling businesses for 30 years. All 3 of my kids have side hustles. And so it's just kind of an always way I call it time stacking. I'm interested in it, and it makes it easy for us to get interested in it. And so we spend time together. My high school student, or my college student daughter, has an Etsy site that basically is going to pay more than what she'll probably make in their field of choice. But she loved it. She's like, this gives me, I can go work anywhere, anytime, and cook for whoever I want and not have to worry about it pays right. So I'm a big advocate for teaching people those type of skills. That's what I do in the small business world, is I help them monetize things, build out affiliate marketing blogs, help them build out e-commerce sites. And so I have a pretty wide variety of skills because I'm just super curious. I rarely sit at home and watch TV. I'm consuming content like you wouldn't believe pretty constantly. So oddly enough, I've used AI to make that more efficient. I run prompts that will, I saw you were using ChatGPT 4, Chris. So if you use some of the plugins, I'll take a YouTube link and I'll run it up against a prompt that has it give me 3 bullet points and a 200-word executive summary. And if I like what I read, I take the course. If I don't, maybe I like parts of it, I tell it to find the part in that video where they're talking about X, Y, and Z. I only go watch that part. And so it's made me even more efficient in consuming content,
qualified
for what I need.
That's a smart way of using it. That's the second smartest way. The first being utilizing it to work with your daughter and Tourette's, and now that, and you know, it's so many people look at this as like, oh, this is a way that I can just crank out a bunch of stuff, or you know, this is my easy button, and this is, instead of like almost like, I don't want to say using your powers for good, but using it in a really you know, effectual way, and like and not being scared of, and being curious, like you're saying. Interesting thing here, Brian, is I went and went into the powered prompt template, and because I just wanted to, you know, see how this thing worked, and it gave me Dan. So I went through here and I said, act as an SEO expert. I said, provide me a list of YouTube video tags for a YouTube video podcast featuring generative AI expert Brian Picard. Keep it factual and informative. Keep it a list separated by commas, because I can copy that and paste it right into the YouTube tag.
Nice.
Do it. Keep it in less than a 500 total character count limit, because that is the limit set by YouTube. And boom. Here we've got a nice list of all kinds of great YouTube video tags based on that particular podcast that I can paste right in there and post it on YouTube. And that will, you know, I acted as a SEO expert, so I'm assuming lots of people will be able to see it. We'll post that into this video, and we'll see tens of views, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, that, I mean,
if we're lucky.
That is money. So the way people can now, with this knowledge, how do I best use this knowledge for my business?
So I think,
go ahead.
The question becomes, are there tasks that you do regularly, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, that are text driven? If that's the case, create that list, right? Do I do something like generate ads, right? Creating ad copy takes time. Am I an appointment setter and I need to write emails back to customers or when they set up an appointments? Like, start using AI to remove 70% of a task that you have to do regularly. That's the starting point for most people.
You know what? That you've just hit at a point for me. I know a lot of people, and when I talk to somebody, I always know somebody else that would be good business. So I'm always making introductions. There's nothing that causes me more stress than sending out introduction emails. And I put it off to the end of the day. And the reason is I like to be a little flowery. This guy's awesome. He does it, and then please meet, blah, 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 blah. Anyhow, I could have, what are you giggling at, Chris?
Flowery. I mean,
is flowery not an appropriate word?
I think you'd rather be Boolean. So let's bring it all back to Boolean.
Anyway, so I wanted to, so I could use it for that. That's a perfect text-driven thing.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I've been in sales training and coaching for a long time. And listen, Brian, you got some awesome ideas here. I got some killer. I got some things that I give to people, and it's like, this is life-changing. They still won't do it. They just nobody will just, it's like 30% will use it right away. And then at the end of the day, you know, after 6 weeks, 3% of people are actually doing this stuff. So is your skills, your class, your course, what you're going to give, would it be beneficial to give that to somebody's assistant to do, or somebody's, in other words, a real live virtual assistant doing this stuff and getting it out, because they just won't do it?
Yes. To me, it's both, right? You teach the admin, you teach the salesperson, because to your point, it goes back to what I initially said. My role is to teach you the capability of the tools, and then a method that makes it easy so that you'll go find how to use it for yourself. Whether it's making meal plans and grocery lists for your home life as your starting point, if it's helping you cut creative ways on what book to read next, right? You could actually have it act as the New York best time seller list creator and give you a list of 10 business books, right? There's a million ways to use it. They don't always have to solve a specific task. The goal is to remove 70% of the drudgery of those tasks from your day-to-day life, whether it's work or otherwise, whether you're an admin or you're the salesperson. I use ChatGPT on my phone. I have the Power Prompt template on my phone. I use it on the go all the time. When I'm rolling up to a place and I want to go talk to somebody and I want to get some insight, I have it summarize that website for me and give me some key takeaways that I can leverage in an introduction conversation, right? So I'm using it to do what you and I've done for years, right? You and I are old school salespeople. I walk in, I read a room, I pick up a sign on the wall that I'm going to talk about, or something on their desk, or
the
something.
talking bass.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to cue in on that, right? We don't have to do that, or we can leverage that plus AI of scrubbing a website, scrubbing a LinkedIn post, and giving me some of those things. I'll give you an example. I'm meeting with, at my day job, we recently started a new division for AI strategy. And I'm meeting with the senior vice president over that division. And so what did I do? I went and learned as much as I possibly could, scrubbing his personalities against AI. And I found out, oddly enough, I was super intimidated because of his credentials. He and I have almost the same degree. We're a year and a half apart from each other in how long we've been at this company. And we're almost the same age. We have a lot of the same. It's like, so it was one of those very comforting things for me to know when I go into this room, we're going to have a lot to talk about other than AI, and I'm not as worried about your big fancy title anymore. So whether you're using this for external customers you're trying to go get in front of, or internal people you're having to deal with, I just wish my wife had a LinkedIn page where I could learn how to communicate with her better.
Yeah.
If I could do that, I could sell this thing for millions.
I was gonna say,
but it works
gonna
for everybody
figure
else.
that one out.
Well, now
we'll keep moving the cheese on that. I think, God, there's such an advantage to someone to be able to utilize this. You don't have to sell me on it, obviously.
Yeah.
But why, let me just ask you this, Brian, what makes people so hesitant on being able to utilize this, not just for being a salesperson, right? I mean, I think salespeople now know they have to, so they're almost a little bit forced to do it because everyone else is doing it. It's a competitive kind of thing. But I think there's a general thing where just, and is it just because Dan said it earlier, like most people won't do it. Most people won't put in the work it takes to be successful, like all of that kind of thing. But AI just feels like it's 10x that. Why?
Right. I think there's some fear that we've built up over the last 20 years in the culture around AI. And so we associate what we see in movies and media and AI with what we're now talking about with generative AI and large language models. So I'll answer this in a slightly more technical way. When you think of what a large language model is, in layman's terms, a huge database of information that a bot has been trained on. These have been around for a long time. If you think of Outlook, if you think about predictive text, those are small language models or specific language models that AI is using to predict the next word in your text sequence, right? So this has been around a long time. So I want you to feel comfortable in that language models. The biggest thing that's happened is we've attached an AI bot, which allows us to communicate with that language model in a far better way. So I think I take everybody back to that basic understanding, because my experiences of the thousands of reps and salespeople that I've talked to is there's 30% that don't care. They're excited. Let's go. There's 30% in the middle. They're like, maybe. And then there's 30% like, no, thank you. And so my goal is always that bottom 30%. Like, how do I at least get you into that middle 30% where you're willing to play around with a little bit of AI or try AI curated information, but not force them into this, write emails, write blogs, do this. Right. It's letting them understand those simple things and seeing it. That's the power, letting them see it. Dan, you probably see this in your sales. I can get up and speak to you about consultative selling all day long until the rep gets on the phone and uses those techniques and they see like, oh my goodness, this actually works. They don't fear it anymore. And so that's why I'm a big advocate. But I don't care if you use it to build a meal plan. I don't care if you do it to have a road trip between here and Austin, Texas, and it tell you the stops every 2.5 hours of what's interesting to see. Like, use it to get comfortable with the outputs, because these models are not what we've talked about in Terminator and all the other scary movies and how AI is going to take over. I'm cautiously excited. I understand that we're very much at the forefront of this. And if you follow the guys like Elon Musk and the big tech guys in this, they're equally scared that we have to have parameters in place. But I don't think that applies to things like ChatGPT. They've got a lot of controls that already exist. Bard, many of the others, XIQ, which is another B2B and AI platform, they all have safeguards in and of itself. And those models are only using information that it's trained on, right? So that's a key thing to remember as well. There's a handful of models that are trained constantly, but most of them have a training date. That's one of the parameters that helps them limit the risk, is by leveraging a trained set of data models. But that's rapidly changing as we go. And we're getting into other cool technology you could talk for hours on. But I would tell people it's not what they saw in the media and the movies. And it is something that you can play with easily and slowly and get comfortable with, and start trying some of these more advanced things.
Yeah, it's mostly fear. It feels like, and I was kind of like, what are you fearful of, and has that happened yet? Right. So I think everyone's just sort of like, there's this fear, and it's like, okay, well, there's lots of people who've been using this stuff for a while, even before it became this huge thing over the last year or so. And like, no one's lost their life, typing in a prompt to ChatGPT.
No one's died yet, but especially the power prompt template. So power prompt template, baby, is the way to go. Can you believe this has been an hour?
Woo! Time flies.
Yeah, yep. I mean, that's what happens. Listen, every time I get a haircut, I tell the hairdresser, best haircut ever. But rarely do I tell after we've had a podcast to say, to tell you, you are about, in the top 10 of anybody who come on. You have content, you have wit, you have a manner of speech that is listenable, and I can listen to you all day and learn from you all day. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate getting you on here.
Well, don't forget, I'm quite handsome too, Dan. Right.
Yeah. Well, I usually save that for Chris Stone.
Sorry, Chris.
That's it.
I'm the second best looking person on this podcast, so I'm okay.
But I should say listen, be honest with me. Best podcast ever that you've been on?
Yes.
You got to say it's because of Chris Stone and his production value. Always there to lend a helpful click. That's what he does.
It's like he'd been an AI prompt expert for decades. The way he was whipping around in there.
Guys made me work today.
I do want to say thank you, Dan. I know we're having fun and this is all about sales and business, but for the guy who is trying to get his ideas and information out there, and I made this decision in the last couple of months that the corporate world doesn't only need to hear this. It's information that I think everybody needs to hear. I love that you offered me this platform with very little information about me. I've enjoyed getting to know you over the last month or two with our interactions. Chris, it was a pleasure meeting you, and I look forward to what our relationships, where we go with this, because I think there's a lot of great AI information that salespeople can leverage if they'll just start with that playfulness and seeing what it can do for them. I think you and I have a lot of great stories to tell salespeople in the near future.
Yep, we'll do it. We're going to do master classes. I appreciate you. And for all of you watching, I hope you've learned something. Connect with Brian. Always connect with Chris Stone. And we'll be here next week. You guys are the best. I'm the Deej. Let's hit it hard today.
Go get him.